tough loss for the Toronto Raptors, who fell to the Dallas Mavericks 102-98. I'm Savanna Hamilton alongside Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton. Amy Audibert will be joining us a little bit later. You are locked into Raptors today. Jonesy, like I said, tough loss, but give credit where credit is due. Luka Doncic, 41 points and 14 rebounds. How masterful was he this game?
Yeah, he was. And Sav, as much as Raptor fans would be upset at the loss, those guys in the Dallas uniform, they get paid twice a month too. Like that's their job to try and win games. And Luka was masterful. Look, you are never going to hold a guy to people say, oh, you got to stop Luka to win the game. Well, stopping is all relative and it has to be put into context. If you think you're going to hold Luka to 5 points and 2 rebounds, forget it. That's not going to happen. But what you do need to be mindful of is where his averages are. He averages about 25 points a game. As you said, he had 41 last night. That's exceeds the average. It puts you in a compromising position. Look, you watch this guy play, and he has the guile and the experience of a 15-year vet. It's like he's already seen everything. You don't speed him up. He does things at his own pace, at his own timing, and don't mistake his size either. I mean, he was able to step through and pass over some of those double teams that the Raptors came at him with, and he doesn't depend, and this is why his game will probably go for a long time. He doesn't depend on athleticism. He's a guy that understands his limitations and plays within them. So he was masterful last night. He made big shots, the 41 points, but it's the 14 assists too. I mean, 14 assists, that means another 28 points. And as I said, if some of those are threes, maybe he's accounted for another 30, 32, 33 points. So he's got his fingers all over this game, and he was difficult to stop. And look, Toronto's not the only one that's fallen victim to that, and they won't be the last one either. So all told, Luka did his thing, but the Raptors still gave themselves a chance to win.
Yeah, I think you put it very, very politely there with his athleticism. He's not relying on it, which means, he's reading the play. He's reading the defenders very, very well. If I'm walking into a gym, he's not the guy that I'm going to point out and be like, he's definitely dropping 41 tonight. So there's something to be said there. But Sherm, I want to take a look back at one play in particular. I don't think any Raptors fans or anybody really watching the game was that impressed. However, there's a few factors that could probably explain it. The Scottie Barnes on Luka Doncic, it was the fourth quarter, down the stretch, tight game. Luka hits a step back 3. It looked like Scottie kind of just let the reins off on that one. I think it's either fatigue, a miscommunication with Boucher, or potentially foul trouble that Scottie was in and didn't want to potentially get another one. So, Sherm, give me your thoughts on that last possession.
Well, number one, Sal, Luka Doncic is very, very good at that step back going to his left. He creates so much separation when he steps to his left, and defenders struggle to get to that, to contest it hotly, to put pressure on him because he's that good. I think in a situation like that with Scottie Barnes, it's a young player. You know that Nick Nurse and the staff have drilled into them. Luka likes to step back to his left. He creates separation. You've got to close the distance. But as a player, when you look at a player doing that and he's already got you with the step back, you're kind of like, oh, well, he usually makes this anyway. Let me try and see if he misses and go and rebound. But as a coaching staff, you still want to see the hand up in the contest. And I think for Scottie Barnes as a rookie, he's got to understand that even though guys are going to make shots, the percentage of them missing goes higher just because you contest a shot, get a hand up. And these are the habits that Nick Nurse and the staff want to drill into Scottie. And, as soon as that happened, Nick Nurse was fiery with his timeout call. He came off and you could see the animation in what he was saying during that moment, because the understanding is Luka's going to make shots. He's going to make tough shots. But as a defender, that can't change your intensity, your level of effort, your consistency, and how you pay attention to the game plan. And that was a lesson for Scottie Barnes, and Nick Nurse definitely had something to say about that. But I don't think it's foul trouble. I don't think it's confusion between a switch between him and Boucher. Scottie Barnes, as the individual and primary defender, just simply took a break. And in this league, you can't take a break. You can't take it for granted. You have to stay true to the principles of your defensive philosophy.
Exactly. And I don't think one play ever makes or breaks a game. It's a collective of plays as well. But, you know, we're going to, you mentioned that Nick Nurse had a lot to say. Well, he had a lot to say also following the game as well. So we're going to take a listen.
There was the one possession where Doncic hit the three with, I think, a minute to go to put him up by 4. Scottie seemed to step away from him. Was there miscommunication there, or just a play that developed that you didn't get guarded well enough?
The last thing you said, didn't guard it well enough.
Was it a communication thing or was it an individual thing?
Well, I think I probably would have guarded him harder. Oh no, it's promising for sure, Doug. As you well know, there's not hardly any teams coming into these places and winning.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we're making a lot of progress. We're playing our guts out. You know, we needed was one of those open threes to go, and we might have snuck out of here with one. I mean, I thought overall our defense was okay, right? We obviously he had a big night and was going. I thought we did a good job of turning him over. I thought we made some great reads. I thought we went some great stretches of getting the ball out of his hands. You know, for a majority of the second half there, just a few stretches kind of back to back there where he shook free. But no, I mean, our guys played a really good game. I don't know why I'm sensing so much negativity here from everybody, but our guys played their guts out here tonight against a team that's 10-1 in their last 11. Well, we've had to, you know, kind of rejig what we're doing with this lineup, Josh. I think you probably noticed we've thrown it into the post a lot more. We've made a concentrated effort to try to get some early post ups. You know, we're seeing a lot of dividends out of those, you know, coming up the floor and just sprinting one of our bigger wings to the basket and trying to punch it in there early. Again, this has been like an incredible stretch of games here against really good teams. I mean, 3 of the 4, if not 4 of the 4 with championship aspirations, or at least deep runs in the playoffs. And it's been an incredibly valuable experience. I know our guys have played a lot of heavy minutes, but they're getting a ton of reps. And to OG, he's been getting post-ups, he's been getting shots, he's been getting drives where we've, again, rejigged a bunch of the play calls to give him some more opportunities to kind of highlight all 3 of those things. And I think it's been really valuable for him.
Now, Jonesy, we're talking a little bit off air about, you know, it's tough to win in the NBA, especially against some of the best teams. But there is a difference between a loss that's a close loss and a loss that's a blowout loss. You don't want to lose, period, of course. But, you know, what does that mean to the Raptors?
Well, the close losses mean that you're executing the game plan well. I mean, you can have a game plan. If you don't execute it, you're going to have those big losses. It means they're executing the game plan well, and they're giving themselves a chance to win. I mean, you think about those losses, you're talking less than 5 points, 2 possessions to Phoenix. They win at Milwaukee, less than 2 possessions to Miami. Last night's game, same deal. I mean, it's a 1-2 possession game under a minute to go. As a matter of fact, in those games this year, 1 possession when they're ahead or behind by 3 with a minute to go, the Raptors are now 7-9. So they've been in a lot of those games and they've won their fair share, but it also talks to the development, Sav, and it talks to executing the game plan and then looking after the fine details, particularly if those details are at the end of the game. So you never want to say good losses, but you're not getting blown out. It's not demoralizing. You're giving yourself a chance to win. And most importantly, to the opposition, they're saying, don't expect to hit this Toronto team and have them roll over and give us the game. And I think all of that continues to strengthen what we know as Raptor culture, right? A way of doing things with expectations attached. We are going to play hard. We're going to play together, and we expect to win. And that culture keeps being built even with these close losses, and it demonstrates resiliency.
Yeah, I like that stat you pulled, 7-9 in those end situations. And Sherm, there's another stat that our producer Jake pulled out that I found pretty interesting. In the last 4 road games that the Raptors have played, the teams that we have played have combined for a home record of 51-35. And if you count out Detroit, they are 44-21. So a lot of these teams that the Raptors are facing on the road right now, well, they're very strong home records as well. So Sherm, does that factor in when it comes to these end of game executions, or is it honestly just a matter of luck in some of these situations?
Well, it definitely factors in, Steph. I mean, you're talking about the level of competition that is some of the elite in the NBA. I mean, we're talking about the Phoenix Suns, who some think can win the championship this year. The Milwaukee Bucks, a difficult team. Miami is supposed to be in the mix in the East, and Dallas, who's really come on with their defense this year. So you just look at the quality of competition and their home records. You know that these teams can play well. They can do a good job at executing. And if you're the Raptors, your level of competitiveness really gets tested in those situations. And I think, the idea of execution down the stretch falls on so many levels, as both of you know. You've got to be able to execute on both sides of the basketball. And as the level of competition increases, your margin for error decreases. And what we're seeing is maybe it's that one shot, maybe it's that one turnover, maybe it's that possession where someone misses a defensive assignment. Maybe in back-to-back scenarios, you don't get that rebound, you create another offensive opportunity. These are the times where Nick Nurse and his coaching staff gets a chance to really narrow down and look at the fine print. A lot of times throughout the course of the season, you're dealing with all the moving parts and the picture is wide. Well, these situations give you a chance to look at execution and the small details that create real winning at the highest level. And the Raptors, I feel, have put themselves in position to make those mistakes at times. And that's a good thing. Now they got to just get over the hump and figure out those little things. And some of it is related to the fact that they don't have a healthy roster, a complete healthy roster. So if they get their roster back and have some more of these games, and maybe they come out on the winning side, maybe some of those issues are rectified just with personnel, right? So at the end of the day, there's always ways to grow. But I really think when you play against higher top-tiered competition, that you really get a chance to look at the things that you really need to fine-tune. And the Raptors, I think, on this road trip have gotten a look at that.
Yeah, I know I said it last show and I'll say it again. Gary Trent Jr. is missed on the floor. But I will say his fashion picks off the court, I'm kind of here for it. You're pushing the ballot. I'm kind of here for it. But we're going to take a listen now to some of the players following game, Fred VanVleet and Chris Boucher.
Not very frustrated. I mean, got to understand the circumstances here. But I'm not really in the moral victory, so that would probably answer your second part of your question. Again, I think all of these games have been winnable. I'm not the type to dwell on it or be inspired by it. I think we play good basketball in good spots. It takes a lot more to win in this league, and we're learning that as a team. And, you take your lumps and you move on to the next one. I thought we executed pretty well. I thought we came up with big stops when we needed to. Couldn't keep them off the foul line tonight in certain spots. It was tough. So that was a little hard. We missed the offensive rebounds, but we made some plays. I think we've been repping out our late game execution in practices and shoot-arounds and stuff. So we're getting the looks that we want to get. We got to continue to grow in that area. But we just stayed together. We kept fighting. There was a stretch there where we could have let go of the rope a little bit. They went up 7. We fought back. We took the lead. I think Luka made a spin to get a layup there. So we hung in there. I think there's growing areas all around the board for a lot of different guys, and that's all you can ask for.
We ain't playing bad basketball. Like I said, we're close with all these teams, and we could have won a lot of those games. And, it could have went both ways. This game, Miami could have went both ways. So, for me, it's just continuing to figure it out, how to help the team. I missed a couple of good shots that, I wish I could get back and make. And I think we all figuring out what we could do to help this team. And, some tough shot that didn't go in, but I think it could have went both ways. And if we win this game, then, it's a total different conversation. We're a young team, but we are getting better every time. And I think, we find a chemistry and a role. And that's the most important thing is to learn. Like I said, we're going to get back on track. And, obviously, it still hurts to lose those games, especially a close one against a good team. But I think we're right there.
We're going to head over now to Amy Audibert.
Thanks, Sav. Let's look to the final game of the Raptors' 5-game road trip. And it's no secret that they have been playing some heavy minutes in their 6 to 7 man rotation. But one thing nobody can question about the Raptors right now is their fight and their compete level. So who better to go against than Eastern rival, the Washington Wizards, on Washington's home court, where they just lost to Brooklyn by 1 point earlier this week. What's going to be really interesting is Toronto does hold the 2-1 series advantage for the season. This is the fourth and final meeting, but both teams haven't been able to get comfortable from long range. The Raptors only shooting 30%, Washington 25% from the three between those first 3 meetings. So we'll see if someone can get hot. Expect an absolute dogfight, especially when you look at how tight the Eastern standings are. Let's chat some Kyle Kuzma. It's his first season with the Wizards, and he's fitting in real nice. He is showing up big time. It's January. He's starting to find that rhythm. In this month alone, he is going off. His averages are pretty awesome. He's going 23 points, right around 12 rebounds a game. He's shooting 52% from 3 in the month, and you have to credit the match. I mean, he's going up with his backcourt and the starting guards of Bradley Beal and Spencer Dinwiddie, super dynamic guys that can spread the defense, touch the paint, kick it out. Quite frankly, this big three is finding their stride halfway through the season for the Wizards. And one more potential highlight of this matchup, which we haven't been able to see yet up in Toronto, would be the 2 Japanese players going head-to-head. Washington's got Rui Hachimura, who's played in only 6 games this season, but he is suiting up right now. And Yuta Watanabe, of course, for the Raptors, who he hasn't played the last 2 out of rotation, but again, the end of a long road trip, you wonder if he'll get his numbers called. This would be incredible for Japan. I've had the pleasure of getting to know some of the Japanese media over the last year covering Utah, and certainly want this moment for them. And let's not forget, in this past summer in the Olympics, both of these guys represented Japan in their home country in the Tokyo Olympics. They were the top 2 scorers for their senior men's national team. Rui had 22 and 7, and Utah averaged right around 18 and 8 rebounds. So we could potentially see fellow teammates, fellow countrymen, but in this matchup, the opposition in Rui and Utah.
Now we got to talk about the made-up awards that we have for mid-season. Jake LaRue, special. The Gotta See It More award first, Jonesy. Who or which combinations of players will you hope to see more going on into the second half of the season?
Well, just for our guy, Jake, the Gotta See It. The Raptors have made a thing, Savanna, of looking for long, angular, athletic bodies. So when you put them on the floor, it doesn't matter, and you're a good defender, it doesn't matter who's covering who, right? So we've seen recently a lineup of OG, Scottie, Pascal, 3 starters with Boucher and Achua off the bench. You have every guy is 6'8" or 6'9", and they switch everything. People will say, well, there's no point guard on the floor. Well, you've got Scottie and Pascal that are the ball handlers and the de facto point guards running. It gives Fred a rest. The minutes police are all over the fact that Fred's playing so many minutes. It gives Fred a rest. It's a good lineup. This is what you wanted. You look for these kinds of guys. So put that unit out on the floor. And our guy, Jake, when I threw it at him, our producer, Jake, dug up some stats for me. They've only played a little over a quarter and a half together, and that because of injuries and protocols and all of that. But their defensive rating would have them at the top of the NBA, as would their offensive rating in a limited sample size. Now, let's not take the analytics and extrapolate them that we're going to play these guys all the time, because it's never that efficient. But what it does say to me is it's a pretty good unit to have out on the floor, and you've got ball handling, defense, rebounding, length, athleticism. You have all of that. So in the made-up award, got to see more of it. I'm kind of looking forward to that in the second half if it works out.
Bouncing off of that point, when Jake asked me for my thoughts on this as well, funny enough, I was like, I want to see, play to the Raptors' strength. I want to see them play a bigger lineup as well. And the guys that come into mind was actually, Scottie Barnes running the point guard. I would love to see Pascal Siakam and OG in a UCLA action where Siakam comes up, sets a back screen for Scottie cutting to the rim while OG has the ball in the wing. And if that action if nothing comes out of that, guess who's wide open? This is where I would insert Gary Trent Jr. or Fred VanVleet for an open three. They're going to stay ready for that too. So Sherm, now we're going to talk our pick for who's going to have the second half of the season breakout award. Who do you got?
Well, you mentioned him, Sav, in what you were just saying. I mean, on the weak side, Gary Trent Jr. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's so valuable offensively for the Raptors, but he's probably just as valuable defensively when you think about his activity and deflections. And, this is one of those breakout awards, not because he hasn't been playing well. It's just that you want to see him on the floor more. You want to see him out there consistently. And he's missed a few games, but I think he's going to have a chance, to take his game to another level with the improved play of Pascal Siakam, the steadiness of Fred VanVleet. OG is finding his footing. And I think this would be the first time since he's been a Toronto Raptor that if they're all healthy, that they would get an extended period of time to play together. So I think, if he comes back and he's healthy and he's ready to go, I think he has a chance in making a push for the playoffs and seeding to be one of those guys who can really take this team over the top. We've talked about how much they could use Gary Trent Jr. during this road trip that they're currently on. So having him for the rest of the season, having his offense and defense built into the already elevated play from the big three for the Raptors, all of a sudden now he becomes a major difference maker.
Exactly. Gary Trent Jr. was on my list, but I would say who I'm expecting to have a bit of a breakout in the second half would be Justin Champagnie. We just haven't seen quite enough of his offensive game come to light yet. And that's good for him because he's focusing on the defensive end. And when I've talked to him in the past, he actually said in college and university and stuff like that, he was an offensive first type of player, but he knows his role in the Raptors. But at Pittsburgh, he averaged 18 points a game and he was shooting 47% from the field while also grabbing 11 rebounds. So that hasn't changed. But, I think some of these players are definitely due for a great second half stretch here. You can catch the Raptors next game. They're facing the Washington Wizards at 8 p.m. on Friday, January 21st. Watch it on TSN and listen to it on Sportsnet Fan 590, of course, from Sherman Hamilton, Paul Jones, and Audibert. I'm Savanna Hamilton, and of course, our crew behind the scenes, super producer. Shout out to Jake, Jody, and our editor, Garth. Thank you for watching another episode of Raptors Today.